Now we are going to look at the relative positioning. Relative positioning moves an element in relation to where it would have been in the normal flow. For example, you can move it 10 pixels lower than it would have been in the normal flow, or 20% to the right from where it would have been in the normal flow. So it is relative. You can indicate that an element should be relatively positioned using the position property with a value of relative. You then use the offset property, either top or bottom, left or right, to indicate how far to move the element from where it would have been. So if the normal space is 10 pixels, you could actually use the relative and indicate the offset property and say 30. So it's going to move 30 pixels away from where it would have been. Now to move the box up or down, you can use either the top or the bottom property as well. Now to move it horizontally, you can use the left or the right properties. The values of the box offset property are usually given in pixels, percentages, or in ems. So we've explained pixels, we've explained percentages, and we've explained ems and what they mean in our previous videos. Now this is an example that is going to explain relative positioning. So let's go to our text editor to actually run this code to see how it's going to look like. So now in my text editor, I'm going to indicate the relative positioning I want. So I want the position to be relative, and it should be 10 pixels away from the top, because the normal flow would have been it being on the normal line. And then I also want it to move from the left 100 pixels away from the left. So I am now trying to move it relative to positioning. So I want to now position it horizontally, move it from where it used to be, okay, with 100 pixels away. So let me just save this and then refresh the browser. Now you can actually see that this is where it should have been in the normal flow, and then we have said it should move 100 pixels away from the left, that is away from where it should have been in the normal flow. That is relative positioning. Absolute positioning. Now when the position property is given a value of absolute, the box is taken out of normal flow and no longer affects the position of other elements on the page. They act like it is not there. The box offset property, top or bottom, left or right, specify where the element should appear in relation to its containing element. I'm going to show you an example, okay, of the heading, okay, that has been positioned at the top of the page and 500 pixels from its left edge. The width of the heading is set to 250 pixels wide. The width property has also been applied to the element in the example I'm going to show you to prevent the text from overlapping and becoming unreadable. By default, most browsers add a margin to the top of the element. That is why there is a gap between the top of the browser and the box containing the element. If you wanted to remove this margin, you could add the following code, which I'm going to show you, which is 0 pixels of margin or 0% of margin. So we can use the ems, the percentages, and the pixels. This is the example of the code we are going to use to explain absolute positioning. In this case, we are concentrating on our paragraph and our heading. So let's head straight to our text editor and browser to see how it's going to display. Now this is my text editor. Let me do away with the relative, and then let's check out how the absolute is going to look like. Let me save it, refresh my. Now this is the absolute positioning. This is the absolute positioning. Now you can see it has moved the heading, which we have positioned absolute, okay, and we have made a top 0 pixels, and it has moved 500, okay, from left from its original position, and it has a width of 250, whilst our paragraph is still maintaining it 450. So you see it has moved almost to the right. Let me maximize my browser. I'm going to say it almost away from the paragraph, okay, almost away from the paragraph. So this is absolute positioning.